Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to the College Football Nightcap. I'm your host, Lucas Hill, as always. Thank you guys for tuning in for what should be a very, very fun show. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to discuss, and there is a lot that needs to get addressed today. We got Cotton Bowl. We got Carson Beck that's on his way back to Miami. We got some other news out of Baton Rouge that we got to talk about. Some really, really serious things. We got NIL. We got to talk about that, dude. I mean, we got to have a whole conversation, and we got to really rethink about everything that NIL is nowadays, because it is not what it was initially planned out to be. It has become completely new. It has become overused. It has become abused. And I think something needs to be done about it in college football. It has to be taken care of very, very quickly. It is, man. I mean, look, you have to really be able to look at this and be real. First of all, let's kind of dive into what we got going on. We'll talk Cotton Bowl at the very end, but we got to talk about arguably one of the biggest headlines going on today. This first coming out, something I saw in a tweet, and I about nearly lost my mind when I saw this, man. I mean, it just made me sick. And so, just unbelievable. And it just goes to show you, man, these kids, man, my God, dude. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me about what's going on with these kids and what goes through these kids' minds. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever, man. It's almost disgusting to make me see this. Kyron Lacey, we all know him. He was supposed to be probably the guy in the wide receiver room for the NFL. I think him, Luther Burden, and I think a lot of others really, really were go-to guys, people that you expected to be. And look, he got lost behind Brian Thomas as well as Malik Neighbors last year. And so this year was just so insane, dude. It just doesn't make sense seeing what's going to happen. And to me, honestly, Kyron Lacey's NFL career is over just before it even started. And it's absolutely unbelievable to say this, bro. It's almost very similar to what happened with Henry Ruggs a couple weeks ago, man. I mean, it's just sad seeing these young cats having to deal with these issues, man. Louisiana State Police has issued an arrest warrant for former LSU receiver Kyron Lacey, who is accused of causing a crash that killed a 78-year-old man last month and then fleeing the scene without rendering aid or calling the authorities. He will be charged with negligent homicide, felony hit and run, and reckless operation of a vehicle. Police said that they have been in contact with Lacey and his attorney to turn himself in. He was driving a 2023 Dodge Charger on Highway 20 out in Louisiana, recklessly passed multiple vehicles at a high rate of speed by crossing the center line and entering the northbound lane while in a designated no passing zone. As Lacey was illegally passing the other vehicles, the driver of a northbound pickup truck abruptly braked and swerved to the right to avoid a head-on collision with the approaching Dodge. Traveling behind the pickup was a 2017 Kia Cadenza, whose driver swerved to the left to avoid the oncoming Charger. As the Cadenza took evasive action to avoid impact with the Dodge, it crossed the center line and collided head-on with a southbound 2017 Kia Sorento. He drove around the crash and fled without stopping to render aid. call emergency services or report his involvement in the crash. And what sucks is that the one that was killed in the crash was a former Marine. So the driver of the cadenza and one of the guys that was a passenger in the Kia Sorento passed away. The drivers of the cadenza and the Sorento sustained moderate injuries. Literally 2 days after the crash, you know what he does? Declares for the draft. I don't know how the hell they didn't know he was involved in this until just now. I know that these police reports take up a while, and it takes a while to get back to them. But this is what has happened. We have now had 2 separate incidents in the span of about, 4 or 5 years involving reckless driving. The bottom line is this. You messed up. You freaking damn near crossed the class. You killed somebody. You turn yourself in. You avoid a couple other charges. But now you just screwed your freaking whole career up because somebody had to die because of your recklessness. That is where the freaking, it just throws me off the edge, bro. I mean, it's just these young cats that think they're above the law and they're above everything. And then something like this happens. It's just unbelievable to me, to be honest with you. It's sad. It's freaking embarrassing that something like this even happened. Makes no sense to me. Just absolutely makes no sense. And so if you want to judge somebody based off of this, I mean, dude, absolutely unacceptable, dude. Absolutely unacceptable that we have that in college football. That is a thing right now, and that we're allowing for basically the inmates to run the asylum at this point. So if you have a problem with it, that is completely okay with me. Honestly, I could care less. And you can say all these things about what Kyron Lacy did, about what he's done. Dude, no, you're not. You just straight up not. That's embarrassing. So let's kind of move on from that. I know it's a ticky-tacky situation to be in. For the victims of the family, our prayers and condolences go out to them. And for Kyron Lacy, whose career is ultimately over at this point, I don't see an NFL team going to draft him after being involved in this. My God. All right. So an effort to I just saw this not too long ago on ESPN. Literally just got dropped about an hour ago. An effort to unionize college athletics has hit a stumbling block. The legal efforts to unionize college athletes appears to be running out of steam this month as new Republican-led administration gets set to take over the federal agency in charge of ruling on employment cases. A players' advocacy group that filed charges against the NCAA, Pac-12, and USC that would potentially open the door for college players to form a union decided Friday to withdraw its complaint. Its case, which first filed in February of 22, was one of 2 battles against the NCAA taken up by the NLRB in recent years. Another law judgment amount. The NCPA which filed its complaint on behalf of USC athletes, said the recent changes in state law and NCAA rules that are on track to now allow schools to directly pay their players starting this summer caused them to reconsider their complaint. The NCPA believes that it is best to provide adequate time for the sports industry to transition into this new era before basketball and football players and employees are whose status are be honest. I mean, the fact that this isn't a whole thing, that these dudes aren't employees at this point is kind of mind-boggling to me. But this is what NIL has become. I mean, this is what I was talking about to you. This is what we've experienced with this. And everybody that's saying that you're shocked that we got these labor unions now about NIL, don't be shocked. This is nothing new. You've known that this was going to be a thing. It just makes no sense to me that we have these things and how NIL was supposed to be. It was supposed to be about having your name on the back of jerseys that was sold at the student shop. It was about you being the guy. But now it's just becoming pay to play. It's about having these contracts and these agents that are representing you. I mean, what the hell, dude? How does this make any freaking sense on what we've had so far today? Just doesn't make any sense for me to really believe that these labor unions really think that they're going to get more than what they've already gotten already. It doesn't seem to make much sense. And so NIL has changed for the worse. Let's just be honest with each other. And if you think it's going to get better, you better really think about it. You better really pay up, and you better really pay attention. NIL just simply isn't working because nobody is happy. The athletes are not happy enough. The freaking fans aren't happy enough. The freaking schools aren't happy. Nobody can come to a real agreement. And I love this take of what Coach Jason Brown took whenever he was on All the Smoke with Matt Barnes.
Just the landscape of college sports right now overall, NIL thrown in there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. You said NIL, man. It was supposed to be how many jerseys you sell in the student store, or if you're the dude, you're the dude. Nowadays, it's pay to play. It ain't NIL. It ain't what it was supposed to be for. It's not name, image, and likeness. And I think if you took the portal away on what the portal actually is doing, it would be all right. Keep it how it is. Fuck it. But the portal, a company with NIL, has created the Wild Wild West.
7,000 kids in the portal for what? 250 D1s?
No, 134. So do the math. Yeah,
It don't math.
I tell people every day on my show, man. I go, there's not enough cats around, and only 1% of those kids get out the portal.
Right.
The other 99 go nowhere.
Or lost. But also, too, we all come from there. Obviously, we graduated high school in the 90s. I mean, you're just running from smoke constantly. Like, I had to sit my ass on the bench my freshman year at UCLA and learn. You know what I mean? Like, kids don't go through no adversity. And it's the same in the league now, or back in the day in the league, where Aaron Rodgers sat, 3-4 years behind Brett Favre? Like, people used to have to come in and pay dues. Yeah. Have to pay dues before they got that. But now that shit, we're seeing it with the girl at Rutgers, right? She just made some tweet yesterday about coach not playing, and we don't know all the details. We don't get into that. But now they're hearing she might transfer now. She's a super talented freshman, but kids run from the smoke now. So like you said, the NIL mixed with the portal to me is a recipe for disaster.
We are witnessing kids day in and day out, 7,000 plus in the portal. And I don't even know if D2 and D3 and NAIA is really taken into account. You have no idea how many of these dudes are in the portal. And JB, he basically told it how it is. 1% of these dudes go on to another D1 or another school. The rest of them are screwed. They're not playing football anymore. And I think with what it's become more of a bag chasing business. That is what NIL has become at the end of the day. The Johnny Manziel situation is a prime example of that. Because all the way back in the day, when you saw those number 2 jerseys flying off the shelves in 2012 and 2013, I mean, Johnny wasn't getting crap. He wouldn't get anything off of it. In today's NIL, he would have wanted that and a hell of a lot more. You'd have been seeing this dude in Gatorade and Nike and freaking all these different commercials. Actually, he would have been Adidas because I think A&M's an Adidas school. But regardless, you get exactly what I'm talking about, is that this is no longer about how many jerseys you sell. This is about wanting contracts. This is about wanting more than just that. This is about wanting more money. It's about wanting more to your benefit and these different clauses in them. If you don't like what's going on right now at your respective school, and if you're not playing, you can go transfer. If you're an elite D1 dude, you can go transfer somewhere else, and you can go play there automatically. Boom, you're a plug-and-play dude. You can go to FCS, or you can go to a G5 and go play. That's what NIL and that's what the portal has done to the minds of the student athlete, and that is what is screwing not just those that are also in the portal that aren't doing it for the money, that have nothing to work for, ones that are walk-ons and they just want to go get a Scully somewhere, but those are ones that are getting overlooked, and at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones sitting on the couch watching football instead of being in pads and a helmet practicing, or at least sitting on the sidelines, maybe even playing in said game. So, since we're still on the topic of the portal, Carson Beck officially declaring that he will go to the University of Miami. Now, yesterday afternoon, he announced that he was on his way to the portal. Literally 24 hours later, bam, decides to go enter the portal. And I think he made the smart choice too. Me and Cole Thompson talked about it yesterday on Texas Sports Unfiltered. He didn't sign an agent. He didn't need to, because usually when dudes enter the portal, they will want to go look for an agent. They will want to go look for a guy that can represent them. But at the end of the day, you knew that whenever he dipped his toes in it, whenever all this bull crap happened, whenever he decided to enter the draft, he knew he was going to probably be a late day 2, maybe even a day 3 selection, because of the regression that he had during last year and what he did to his throwing arm. Had that UCL tear. And I think he's making a better, smarter decision. Not only that, you're getting $4 or $5 million to go to the University of Miami. And I think Miami is going to continue to be better. Look at what Cam Ward did. Does almost the exact same thing and does pretty much the parallel same as what they've done this year, as what Miami did this past year. This Shannon Dawson offense is going to be interesting. I think that this is a dude that I think could potentially get himself a head coaching job. The guy's from Clinton, Louisiana. Long time head coach. Was at Southeastern for a little while, by the way. But Shannon Dawson has been around the game for a while. He knows offenses. Was at West Virginia for about 3 seasons. Was at Houston with Dana Holgorsen. And look at what he's doing right now in Miami. I think he's a great coach. I think he's an excellent mastermind when it comes to defensive play calling. And I think he's just only going to get better as we continue along during his reign out in Miami. When you get a signal caller like what Shannon Dawson is and you pair him alongside Carson Beck, we'll see what he is in that first game against Notre Dame. Definitely going to be an early test for them. This ACC road is not going to get easy for Miami because you play. Look, you get Notre Dame, you play USF, you play Florida, you play Louisville, NC State, Syracuse, at FSU, at Pitt, at SMU, at Virginia Tech. Can you come? How does your defense also do? I think you plug in a guy like Carson Beck. I think Miami should still remain a top 15 program, especially in next year. By the way, after the game, I'm going to release my way too early top 25 for next year. So we got a lot of special announcements. It's 11 days until we get to our special announcement. Today, 11 days. The countdown begins as we get closer and closer and closer to what could be arguably one of the biggest announcements that we've had in the short span of being college football nightcap. So really, really excited for that, and I'm really excited to bring that to you guys. There is one thing that I do like with what this transfer has brought. The guys had a big setback, and I think that when you knew what this team would have been if they don't have a transfer quarterback, you would have. I think there was a lot of teams that were going to go into the offseason without an unproven quarterback, especially in the ACC. Miami just upgraded themselves. I think them, Clemson, and I think maybe Syracuse, because I absolutely love Fran Brown with what he brings to the table. I think all three of those teams are going to be ACC contenders. SMU is going to still be up there. They will take a pretty big hit on the offensive side of the ball, though. But I think that they'll still be ready to go and ready to roll once we get rolling into the 2025 season. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a minute. Okay, let's continue on as we get closer and closer to CFP playoff action. But yeah, Beck. So Carson Beck said that he will not be able to throw until the springtime, and received feedback that he could be selected anywhere in between the first and third round. No, buddy. No, you would have been a fourth, fifth, or sixth round pick. Sorry, your UCL tear doesn't help you. Plus, the matter of the fact that you fell in the draft. I mean, sorry, bro. Anyway, look, who is the next Cam Ward going into 2025? Who is the next Carson Beck going into 2025? So let's kind of take a look at what 2026 has to offer. Well, obviously it starts off with guys like Arch Manning, with Nico Iamaleava, Lenore Sellers, Jalen Daniels, who will be entering his final year as the starting quarterback. Malachi Nelson, who's at UTEP right now. Jaden Rashada, maybe. We'll see what happens with him. Let's say this. I think the number one quarterback that you can definitely hint at potentially pulling something like this, to me, it's probably a guy like either Arch Manning, maybe even dare I say it, but I think, look, the one quarterback that just screams that out has to be Arch Manning. And you may just look at me and think I'm crazy, but hear me out. We have heard the rumors about Arch Manning potentially transferring somewhere. Now, Arch Manning could go into 2025 and light it up. He could have basically the same sort of season that Carson Beck had at the end of last year, and he could absolutely dominate on the gridiron. But there's going to be one thing that's going to separate what he does in the near future between that and what he has done in the past. Because look, everybody knows he wants to enter the portal, but he knows next year is going to be his year. So let's just say he has a semi-mediocre season, kind of what Quinn Ewers has. Good, but not a great season. Who's to say that he doesn't transfer? Who's to say that he doesn't transfer to another Miami or maybe an Ole Miss? Maybe go see Lane Kiffin. Hell, I'll throw even a crazy one out there. How about he goes to see Hugh Freeze in Auburn? Hugh Freeze has been looking for a quarterback. He needs somebody to adjust. He needs somebody to run his option offense. I think Arch could be a good one. I'm sure Cam Coleman would love to see him throw him the football. But I don't know yet, man. I just see a scenario where Arch Manning could do this. Arch Manning could be the very next quarterback that goes out and does the exact same thing that Cam Ward and what Carson Beck has done. Except I don't think he goes to Miami. I think the likelihood of him being in the SEC is much higher than where Carson Beck was and where Cam Ward is at the moment. Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord has has gone to the NFL draft. I think McCord's definitely up there. I think the loss of Beck and with the loss of Klubnik, I think it pushes him up to close to being a top 5 quarterback in this class. I think it definitely pushed his stock from being maybe a 5th or 6th round pick to maybe even a 4th round or mid 4th round pick, maybe in the hundreds, between the hundreds and 150s of where he could potentially get picked. If he's lucky, maybe even an early 3rd round pick. Who knows, man? I mean, I think he's got that sort of potential. Will it happen? I don't think so. But, I think at the end of the day, Kyle McCord's stock is going to go up because of losses with guys like Cade Klubnik and with Carson Beck withdrawing from the 2025 NFL draft. And it's going to make this quarterback class look a lot more interesting than what people have been used to seeing in the last couple of years. I don't think it's as strong as last year, but I do think that there's still going to be playmakers. There's Cam Ward, there's Shedeur Sanders, and then there's kind of everybody else. There's an experimental quarterback. There's guys like Jackson Dart. There's guys like Quinn Ewers, who both of them have, where Quinn Ewers hasn't really said whether he's going to go to the draft or not. But you start to think that there's a hell of a lot of talent in this draft. The next two drafts are not going to be quarterback heavy with regards to talent, not like last year whenever quarterbacks were much needed in the first 12 picks. But I do think that there is still a lot to look forward to in this 2025 NFL draft class at the quarterback position. All right. Let's kind of cap off our show today, and let's talk about none other than the Cotton Bowl Classic. Tonight, we'll have our instant reaction afterwards tonight following the Cotton Bowl. Guys, extremely excited. Absolutely extremely excited to get to talk about this with you. So when you look at both of these teams, when you look at where a team like, let's just say, Ohio State, where were they at the beginning of this postseason? People were calling for Ryan Day's head, number one. We all know that. Number two, people were wanting change. They were wanting more wide open offense. They were wanting for Ohio State to open up the playbook because it was embarrassing watching what Chip Kelly's offense had done. And seeing how overall things drastically changed over the course of the last two games, it's been unbelievable. In order for Texas to be able to stay in this football game and to be able to pull off said upset, you're going to have to be able to keep pace with them. You're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. And if you don't, then guess what? You're going to have to be able to control the line of scrimmage at the end of the day. If you are unable to do so, you're going to put yourself in a pretty bad situation. And if you do that, it's going to be a long day for you. Let me just tell you, buddy. It will be an absolutely long day. Will anybody be surprised? To be honest with you, I won't. And so if you're going to stay in this football game, if you are Texas, you have to be able to maintain leverage on the line of scrimmage. You're going to have to be able to shut down this passing game, even with guys that are absolutely studs like Jahdae Barron, your Jim Thorpe Award, with Andrew Makuba, and with Malik Muhammad, all part of an improving Texas secondary, but one that really hasn't felt comfortable with the lead in a football game. If they do get the lead, what will we see? The winner of this football game is going to win the national championship. Make no mistake about it. I don't see a Notre Dame team being able to compete with either Texas or Ohio State. And either or, the money line is going to be over a touchdown. I guarantee you that. If it's Ohio State in there. If it's Texas, it's under a touchdown. I think it's maybe a 5.5, maybe a 6.5 point favorite for Texas. Nothing too crazy. I'd say I'd take that back. Let me say 4.5 and 6.5 the line is going to be. I would definitely take the over if that's the case on both of those occasions, because I just don't see Notre Dame's defense being able to keep up with both offenses. I think both defensive lines are going to be electric because, I mean, this is going to be the first real offense that is really good that Notre Dame has faced probably since you played Louisville. I'm just going to be straight up with you. I mean, I don't think that Notre Dame's defense has really been tested offense on the defensive side of the football and had to bow up until you played Penn State last night. And even before then, who did you play? You played USC, who, if they don't have those mistakes near the end of the football game, they pull off an upset. When we talk about Louisville, they were close. They could have pulled off an upset. But you knew that there's still a lot of work for this offense to do to stay in this football game. I think the one who's going to win the line of scrimmage is going to win this football game. And with that being said, my overall best pick for this football game, it's going to be a tight one. It is going to be absolutely close. But I think at the end of the day, the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to be the winners of the 2025 Cotton Bowl Classic, punch their ticket to the national championship, and we will get an Ohio State, Penn State, or Notre Dame matchup in the 2025 national championship game. We will see you all tonight. Y'all have a great rest of the day, and I hope you all enjoyed watching us here on the Nightcap.